Now, let's talk about the Department of Water and Sanitation. It's reportedly in a financial crisis, causing it to fail in meeting its financial obligations, such as paying its critical creditors. The department has denied this, claiming that it has enough money to last it until the end of the financial year. Back in October last year, the Auditor General reported that the Department of Water and Sanitation's irregular expenditure rose by 300% to 1.7 billion rand in one financial year. Let's get a bit more clarity on these issues. And joining us in studio is Sputnik Ratau. He is the spokesperson for the Department of Water and Sanitation. Sputnik, thank you so much for joining us. Good to have you here.
Thank you for having us and good morning.
All right, so it's said that the department has run out of money. Is this the situation?
The situation is not as it has been reported. We do have quite a large amount of money that was allocated to the department as per usual, because we are one of those critical departments that have got to do basic service delivery. And out of the 15.5 billion rand that was allocated to the department, as at now, we have spent well over 12.5 billion, and which implies that we are still with about over 2 billion rand that's available for us until the end of the financial year, which we all know is at the end of March of every year. So we are quite confident that we will be able to continue meeting our obligations until that time.
Yeah, I mean, there's been talk and requests that the department actually be put under administration. How did you get to a situation like this?
I think one of the things that has maybe come onto our plate basically is with the situation of the drought that has been happening, we have had to do a number of emergency interventions, obviously implying that for the best part of time we've had to move money around. But obviously most of that cannot just be done. It has got to have the authorization either of the delegated authority, as in the CFO of the department, or at times, depending on the kinds of amounts that might be involved, we would also need to engage National Treasury to give us that authorization from that level. So those kinds of things obviously have affected some of the expenditure patterns that would have necessarily ordinarily followed. And that is why there is a belief that we are not in a situation where we are able to take care of what we have to.
You use the word belief, but I mean there's evidence, there's reports out, and there's a lot of talk showing and reports showing that the department is now in 4.3 million rands worth of debt. It's in the red of 4.3 million rand, leaving hundreds of contractors unpaid. So you say it's the belief. And at the same time, there have been warnings from the Treasury. In fact, the Finance Minister at the end of last year warning the department, guys, you're running out of money. You don't have funds. You've got to tighten your belt. You've got to do something about this. And yet it seems that those calls were ignored. So, I mean, I know we're trying to make the situation better than it actually is. But, you know, on paper, it's really a bad situation.
I think those engagements with National Treasury are things that are necessary, and they are always ongoing, because National Treasury has got a constitutional mandate to make sure that we do the things that we said we're going to do according to the way that we have to do it. So if they are because we also do monthly reporting as well as quarterly reporting of our activities based, looking also against what we have actually spent. So those would obviously, in a situation of accounting, be able to raise red flags from time to time to say, if you don't watch out, these are things that might come out. Yeah. But also the activities, the engagements with the Auditor General are a necessary process as well, because they keep all of us on our toes. And basically some of those issues that have happened was that probably from time to time you'd find that the reporting to National Treasury, because we have to report all activities of finance, might not have happened at the correct time or things like that. But obviously once we engage with National Treasury and we know where the difficulties are, we've always had to come back and correct some of those things so that we are able to keep in track. But the fact of the matter is that we need to operate in such a manner that we do the things that we have to do based on the funding that is available, but we've also had difficulties, and especially with regards to the emergency interventions that we could not avoid because they involved communities where they were impacted upon. So those are some of the things that in the ultimate might have looked very, very negative, but we believe at the moment that we will be able to do the things that we have to do within the amount of time.
What about contractors?
In terms of contractors, that is another thing that we have to also understand, that for in the most part, those contractors that are spoken about are those that are contracted to our implementing agents in the regions, or rather in the kind of activities that they are doing. For instance, if you look at what happened with Valhamachara, we had Sidibeng Water as the implementing agent. So if you find that in that context where there are still invoices that have got to be received and work verified, because it's not just a question of receiving an invoice and we pay, but the kind of work that is spoken about has got to be verified, and that sometimes might take time. And ultimately, once the verification has been done and the department is satisfied with the progress that is happening, some of those get paid. But where there are also issues to be discussed in terms of satisfaction, whether the work done is at a standard that we were expecting, if there are no hiccups in other things, obviously those can cause delays.
Yeah, I mean, Sputnik, there have been alarm bells ringing at the Water and Sanitation Department for a while now. I mean, in fact, when you look at Parliament in November last year, South Africans heard that the department is the most wasteful department that we have, sitting with 2.5 billion rand of irregular expenditure. We've also had confirmation that the Public Protector is now going to investigate the 26 billion rand Lesotho Highlands water project. Also the SIU investigating tender and other irregularities over the controversial Guyani project, which was, I suppose, the cost of which has already ballooned from 500 million to 5 billion rand. Something is dramatically wrong at this department. And I mean, something has to get to the bottom of it, and someone has to get to the bottom, because this is water we are talking about. This is, we cannot live without water. And I mean, we need to, as South Africans, be assured that we will always get the service with all of this bad mismanagement happening behind the scenes.
You are correct. Water is very central to our livelihood, and obviously we have that basic responsibility to be able to deliver on that. And I think one of the things that we have to also understand is that we also accept and actually are quite keen, and we are cooperating with all those investigations, because if anything raises red flags, we would want not to sweep anything under the carpet, but if there are processes that can assist us to be able to communicate what has happened and be able to come to those conclusions and actually indicate what is involved in all of those, we are always happy to do that. And that is why the department will continue to cooperate with any investigation that happens, and that is why we are cooperating with the Public Protector, with the SIU, and all other investigations. The Auditor General is one office that we obviously engage with on an ongoing basis throughout the process, and obviously that's something that we always appreciate.
Yeah. All right. Well, it's unfortunately time to wrap up the interview, but I mean, I suppose that leaving on a tough note here, we had invited the Department of Sanitation's acting Director General to come in, as well as the Chief Financial Officer, but Sputnik coming to represent. So we thank you very much for coming in to talk to us about all of this and the problems that are at the Water and Sanitation Department. We'll continue to follow that and try and update you as to what is going to happen going forward on this program. Sputnik Ratau, the spokesperson for the Department of Water and Sanitation, thank you very much for joining us here on the program. Let's take